Good morning. Welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Melodium. I am your host, Sovereign Non-Melodium, and this is episode 16 of season 12 here at OG Foundation. So, the first thing I'm working on here is, let me turn this around, is removing these forms, which I put up for the crenellations yesterday, actually. So it's Friday morning. Yesterday, Thursday, when I published last week's video, I put those forms up in the morning, put one coat of mortar on right after, like before noon, and then by the end of the day, got a second coat of mortar on. And so today, the next day, I am pulling the forms, and basically the mortar just has to be strong enough to hold the head of the staple as the board is ripped off of the legs of the staple that has the metal stapled to the board. So the rock holds the metal in place as the board is pulled away, and then the staple stays with the rock. Then I fold the legs up and I'll mortar over that. I just want to get a shot of this, and then once I remove it, you'll get a good view of the kind of final shape of the north side of the Molly Stark Tower. So here's the look of it without the forms. Pretty funky, I like it. So I pulled them, had a bit of an issue with them falling on things, prepped them, bent the staples up, so it's all ready for mortar. I've got to do some things with the animals and eat a little food myself, and then I'm going to rush to get a wet coat on to cover all of that fresh area where the raw stuff, where the forms were, and the metal is all exposed. And try to get that done before 1 p.m. when I have another meeting. I found Coco there hanging from her leg from their roost. She's very bruised, if she didn't break her leg. So I'm going to put her in here with Wasabi. Hey, Wasabi, go back in there. I'm going to try to anyways. Come here, girl. And give her a rest and let them socialize a bit. After a batch on Friday, I got coverage on all of it except for that circle there, which I'll have to move the ladder, and so it's just going to be one batch today. I think next I'm going to prep some kind of rain guard over that window while I've got the ladder there. And then probably get into mortaring that tomorrow. So that tire right there in the foundations here, that one is not pounded. And I was thinking at one point I was going to pound it, but now I'm thinking I'm just going to take it out because I don't think pounding it would be good for anything. So I'm going to dig out the dirt that's there and then reinforce when it's gone. So that's what that looks like with the tire gone. You can see over here the Ferrocement wall, and then up next to it is cement from having poured in there, and then over here is different kind of cement that I had poured, or mortar on the right, and then somewhere on the bottom is like mortar from the outside. So basically just got to distribute the weight from the Ferrocement wall, which is the furthest in, and figure out how to get the weight on the inside of the tire wall if possible. Might require steel, but just putting concrete on here and finding a way to connect the rock there to the rock there with some tensile strength, that will really help. I'm all out of rebar, but I'll probably have to buy some more for some structural things. I've got two different structural concerns that I've noticed, and I'll point them both out to you. So over here, I built this little wall section this year, and there was like a piece of rebar sticking out about 16 inches from the corner of that when I started. So I just started by extending the wall, and then so you can see right here where this crenelle is, that's the thinnest part of this cement wall. And for a while this cement wall here was holding up the weight of that side wall. It was what was bearing the weight of the side wall. And here where this wall is the thinnest, you can see that it started to crack over here. So there's a piece of rebar at the top and the bottom, so the force on the mortar cracks reflect the force upon the rebar. So there's one over here, and then up there where that flying buttress intersects the building, there's another piece of rebar, and I'll show you what's happening there. So over here you can kind of see the rebar right here. The rebar is going, so it's sticking out of here, and so I just noticed this today. There's a crack coming down here, so it's separating. The weight from this structure is sitting and going that way, and that caught by that much, by like a millimeter or a half a millimeter. And because the rebar here isn't completely encased in the mortar, it has ability to detach sort of from the mortar here, which is what this cracking here is doing, so that the rebar is not integrated with the mortar, but is bearing a weight that's causing this cracking. So I'm going to think about how to fix that. I think the best way would be to introduce more tensile strength between them, but it might be actually good for them to be able to move slightly independently. But that's the tolerance. When these two big structures, when they move a millimeter, I'm following it, and then I can see the forces and how they array, and see how to buttress accordingly. Saturday morning, and I'm prepping this visor for the big window bay. That lath is up underneath. I'm trying to get this end, and then over here I want to finish up at this mortar point on this corner, and that basically means finishing prepping the end of the visor, and also the end of this little visor over this window here, and finishing up on this some of these surfaces, and then I'll be able to move the ladder and make more progress elsewhere, but more prep for the morning. My step ladder finally gave way. It now is not really usable, but luckily I wasn't in too dangerous of a position when it broke, so no injuries, but I'll need a new step ladder. Here's the scoop I figured out for that window. So it's almost like funnel shaped, and it's kind of the inverse of what this one's going to be over here. And I'm trying to shape that visor to simultaneously look like an ear of the dragon, and this to be like an eyelid. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I'm trying to make it work and prepping that. And I don't really know the right shape. I don't really like that shape as it is, so I've got to do something about the shape of that before I mortar it. So I started off focusing on kind of like the visors over the windows. So I got that one done. I got this one like lath on all the way. I haven't fully shaped it, but I prepped it. So I like tied it off to about there-ish. And I'm gonna just do that much for the first batch. And then when I was trying to do the one over this window, it turned out that I needed to put the window in to really figure out how to do the visor eyelid type thing over the window. And so I ended up installing it and basically prepping the window for mortar. I plasticked the outside of it. The window's at an angle in line with the dragon, which should be just fine, especially with the big kind of visor eyelid over it. And so I stapled the lath on this side. I put some screws in the side of the frame, and I'm just going to mortar this recycled window right in there. So here's how it looks from the outside. I put an extension on that kind of eyelid thing, which is a little bit hard to see from this angle. And there's a good bit of overlap and a little piece of remesh in there. So I think I'm all... Oh, and then over here, I'm prepping this. That kind of breaking the cement over by that crenelle from that rebar connection to this structure. I'm not concerned about that at all. But this one I'm more concerned with, because if this keeps pulling too far, then it'll create... The crack will go down into the valley and it'll create issues of separation. So I used a spare piece of remesh that I've got here. And I've got it kind of, just a scrap piece of remesh, and not a very big piece. But I've got it propped up there with a board to cross over where the cracks are. And then I'm going to prep the other extended piece of remesh with a little bit of lath. That's the last prep I've got to do before mortar. So I'm going to get some more lath around that so that the mortar there will reintegrate with that rebar, and then they won't be able to pull apart, ideally anyways. Problem with that is that then there's about whatever force that was expressed there and was allowed to kind of get out by the bend in the rebar, basically. Now the structures will be connected even more rigidly, so there's pros and cons of doing that. But if they all stay, if they're not moving independently, then it's a good thing. So reinforcement over here is complete for now. This will probably take about a bucket of mortar, and we'll really reinforce this whole juncture here to make sure that there's no the immense amount of weight that's pulling on this single piece of rebar is able to be withstood by the concrete around it without losing integrity. Also, this is what this little scoop over there looks like over that window from this angle. And you can see how the wall kind of indents here, which I wanted it to do. A lot of that will get covered when I put mortar over it, but I kind of like it actually. End of the day Saturday, just one batch today, but I got coverage on that whole area where the forms had no backing, and got a start on that little kind of window flare thing there. And then over here, this window got its first batch of mortar. The lath that's over it is cut on the sides. I just didn't want to cut the top yet because of there being fresh mortar on it and not wanting to disturb it, but it's got really good coverage for a first coat. So that's all the coverage on the inside here. Over here I got really good coverage on that reinforcement little section. Here's the outside of the window. And then I got some beginning coverage on this sort of eyelid, as well as what would be the, like the ear there. So let's see if I can climb up without a step stool. So all this fresh stuff up here. So good start. I also removed the form on that, so in the next batch that I do, I'll be able to get a backing on that, which is, at this point, a lot of the bottom of this only had one coat. I had to remove the form really fragilely to not damage it with just one coat. You can see how it moves. That's how much plays in there after one coat, so pretty fragile. And then as soon as it gets the coat on either side, it'll be nice and solid like everything else. So a lot of these crenellations look like they're just about done. They've been like rapid baked because it's been so hot basically, but looks pretty good. I'm looking to wrap up a lot of these external things, but there's a good bit left to do, and yeah, I'm glad to get one more window in, and we'll push a little further tomorrow. It's been a dry spell and we're all out of rainwater right now, so I've been getting water to the main reservoir. So I've been getting my water from this outside rainwater catchment, which is, it's a thick murky green water with a lot of larvae in it. But I don't know if the color will reflect in the mortar, but it's nice to have extra rainwater catchments all around. Whoa! That was interesting. So I prepped another few feet of the, I guess what would be the ear or the kind of visor over the big window bay. I decided I want it to be a place that you can walk out on, so I'm going to bend the whole thing up and reinforce it in such a way that that'll be possible, so you can kind of walk around the edge there. I think that'll be pretty cool. So I think I have enough surfaces prepped for a batch of mortar, and so I'm going to get into a batch of mortar before looking into mounting that upper window in that top corner. After the first batch on Sunday, got a little bit of coverage over here on this corner, and I'm about to dive into prepping for that window there. I also prepped this little countertop space by this window here, so that'll be a nice place to put like plants, definitely, or just whatever, and it'll also be structural, kind of reinforcing this column right here and tying it into that wall. I got a good bit more coverage on that window scoop. Maybe after that cures, I can get full coverage on it like the next go around. So just moving the ladder back and forth across on either side of the window to get access to it. A little more on the eyelid, and the ear has coverage about halfway down. It's all drying so fast. There's coverage on both sides of that end wall. I've got to wet it down. The sprayer has gotten a little stuck, so I put soap in the water to help kind of lubricate the inside of it. But it's just super hot and sunny, so everything's drying out really fast. But my aim is to do a little bit more prep and get one more batch of mortar done today. Sunday afternoon, and it is crazy hot today. It was nice to have some shade working on this window. So I haven't prepped the top of it, but I prepped the bottom and the sides and got it in like square level enough so that I can mortar that with the next batch. And the first batch I didn't get any coverage in here. I also extended this piece of lath on the top over to the pillar here so that it'll reinforce all the way up, so that the back side of that has more sort of compression strength, because it'll be thin there, and then it has to transition into the wall from the dome above. So let's see if I can get a decent amount. It's kind of difficult to get coverage there. I might even try to put a form up, but that would also be difficult because I can't like really reach around to do that. But other than that, I am hesitantly getting into another batch this evening. Also in that first batch from this morning, I put a lot of those rocks that were under that tire. I mortared up to connect the various kind of layers of Ferrocement and then concrete and the original tires and the rocks that were kind of mortared in. Took the rocks that were from underneath the tire that I took out, and then mortared them back into place there, starting to build up a sort of a concrete rock core here to make sure that this wall is really well integrated with that, and that is really well anchored down on those tires there. So that's another footer for the tower here. And then at some point, maybe I can connect all these footers together. Maybe I'll rebar them all together so that the footers are as tight as the tower is on top. Because otherwise, tires have more give than the Ferrocement. We're in a dry spell, so it's been really hot and sunny, and we're low on rainwater. What I've realized is that by running this dehumidifier, it makes like several gallons. It pulls several gallons of water out of the air a day. And if there's enough sun, we're all off grid here, so there's an excess of power right now, but there's a shortage of water. So basically we're converting the excess energy into the needed water. And I just think that's so cool to have that source of water from the environment that's not rain, but that's just straight out of the air. It's like a wind trap, like in the Dune series. And I was just thinking, like, this is just such a perfect use for overflow energy, because oftentimes when there's overflow energy, when it's sunny, there's also a need for water. So it's just a great use for that. Better than like a battery. It's like it's creating a resource. I love it. Monday morning, I did get a second batch done yesterday, so I got pretty complete coverage on that structural reinforcement area. There's just a little piece of lath where the little sledge was kind of holding it down. And then in the window here, got double coverage on the sides. The kind of eyelid visor thing over the window has just about full coverage, except for just a little bit around the edges. And the ear there has got double coverage up top, as well as some other stuff on top, so it'll be stronger so that I can get out there further to be able to finish the ear. And then I was figuring out the corner there where the ladder is. And on the inside, so in here I got really good coverage on that window, so that window is solid, mounted in there now, and isn't going anywhere. So I'm happy with that window. And I got more coverage around this window here, and all around the sides, the top, and then working on this little table thing. And then as well, for this scoop above this window, I got a lot more coverage, and in the next batch I'll be able to get full coverage on that. So lots of little things all over the place. So it took a long time last night getting the second batch done. Though it was nice that I waited a little later so it wasn't so hot, because I got into the 90s and sunny. And anyways, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get into yet today. I just wanted to give you the update on those. So I'm doing a bit more prep this morning. Monday morning. I'm a little bit perplexed about this whole situation and how to frame in these next three windows. I kind of want to just frame them in with 2x4s, which the only 2x4s I have are outside on the scaffolding out there. I have like 4, so I could frame in 3 windows probably with 2x4s, but regardless, I'm going to need some lath as kind of like in between the 2x4 and the lath. So I got this up there so I can kind of like try to connect it to the roof, but then I don't want to lath myself out because I need to undercoat the visor underneath of there. So then I bent it up to try to like still get under there, but basically I still need to bend that last section up a little bit from the outside. And partly because I was procrastinating from doing that because it's so hot outside, I decided to mess with this remesh in the corner. And so all of this stuff is all supported by the compression strength of this one piece of remesh here. And then by putting all that stuff on there, it squished the remesh up in the corner, so it's almost like blocky. And then I put lath up under there, and then I also stapled that up to the plywood, which or the particle board from that panel, which happens to fit in there very well, and then tied it off at the corners. So the idea is that is flattening that out so that this can end up being a flat space for a chair or for storage or whatnot, and will make the above space usable, where and keep the usability of the tunnel below as well. Though I don't know if I want the tunnel opening that wide, but once this is all mortared in, I'm not going to go any wider than that, and then I can adjust potentially the remesh and change the shape after that lath is mortared in, because then the rest of the remesh can change. But for now, that'll be good, and that lath will help get good coverage on that. First batch on Monday, I got double coverage on that window, so it's nice and solid in there. And got most of this all patched up above that window, as well as the reinforcement thing. And that thing's all finished over there. I gotta water that because it's drying out quick. And then on this, there's just like a little bit left that I couldn't quite get to for this ear. And then I did a couple other things up top. It's kind of another batch all over the place. Oh, and I got on this tunnel, I got like just about a full first coat on this arch here. So the sidewalls, and I got something up on the corners in between the sidewalls and the top, which are both easy to plaster because it's got backing. But I was able to get the in-between as well. So once that solidifies, I can get a second one on it. Then I can probably take this stuff off and then mortar the top side. But if I took it off right now, it would probably deform. Yeah, it's so hot. We'll see if we can see if I can do another one today. I got full coverage on that little visor in that first batch, but just one batch for today. Tuesday morning, and I started by making this frame for 3 more of these recycled windows. I think I only have 1 or 2 left of these. Shout out to Chris, who rescued all these from a dumpster a couple years ago so that I could recycle them. That's where these 5 windows are all from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I built that frame. I'm gonna see about mortaring that 2x4 in and then putting this frame in on top of that 2x4. And we will see how that goes. But I've got a good bit more prep to do. Just finished with the first stage of work for today. The window bay is roughly mounted. There's a surprise in there, which I'll be able to show you at some point, but we gotta let it marinate what the surprise is. Can you guess? Anyways, I just got it up there. It's very sketchy, it's very heavy, very easy to drop and break, but I'm gonna see if I can prep it for mortar. And if I can do that, I suppose I'll get into a batch, one batch of mortar today. So I've got some complex Cartesian philosophy, trigonometry, ontology, some Euclidean dimensions of navigating force, which is all part of the surprise of this window. That there and that there. And there's cardboard on the sides and on the top of the window. And I've prepped it. And then there's these strange wire holders on the window. And there's weird things going on with the lath, but I pretty much have prepped it all around. I was hoping it would take me so long that there wouldn't be time to do mortar, but there's like just enough time to do mortar. So I guess that means I have to do mortar, which I was hoping I was gonna get out of. But it looks like it's mortar time. End of the day, Thursday, I got 1 batch done, and because I got started so late, I put half of the batch, 2 buckets, down on the foundations where it would go really quick, so that I only had 2 batches to work with on the more the fine and slower stuff up here. So I got pretty good coverage on this window bay here. Actually, it's not that good, but it's a start. Over on the right side, it's the best, and then it gets progressively not so good. But I got a bunch on top, but it's not reinforced in different areas, so it'll just be sitting on the window right now, which is not really ideal. But it'll need another batch to really solidify. But it's a good start. And I finally finished this table over here, and then got a second batch on, or a second coating, I guess, on this tunnel here. So tomorrow I should be able to remove the form above, so that in the next coat I can get an overcoat, and then start using that little space and see what I want to do with it. But yeah, so a whole bunch of prep today to get those in place, and that is counterweighting the windows, pulling them in. I had a really tricky situation trying to hold it in with the lath above and all sorts of tricky things, but it's kind of leaning out a little bit, but I'm still happy with it. It'll just add to the character, because this one's clearly leaning in and that one is leaning out, so it'll just work with the shape of the dragon on the inside. But it's nice to get that in there, and in time we'll reveal the surprise. Midday on Wednesday, just did a batch. It also rained earlier, which was excellent, so I did a batch right after it rained. Over here, let's see, over here I got the overcoat on the tunnel there, and more on the sides, and mortaring that rebar in. And then over here, just got extra coverage all around this window where I could. I still can't do the top very, I can't really access it so well. I need to buy a new step ladder basically, but I got it really good underneath and on the two sides, and I'm kind of, and I did pretty well on that side, working my way over from there. And then there's a good bit outside. I finished the ear up here. You can't quite see it, but right up there, so the last part of the ear is full, has coverage. When it rained, it was interesting seeing the rain come over the edge of that thing. And then just did a little more extra stuff above, and see about if we're gonna do another batch today. Okay, you good girls. Pretty kitty. And a sweet birdie. One of the things I did in the last batch is finish this chimney hole on the inside and around the lip on the top, so that once that cures, probably tomorrow, I'll be able to dangle the flexible chimney thing I have it in there, and we'll see how far down it goes into there. Coco is pretty much all better, by the way. She just has a very slight limp, so she definitely didn't break her leg. It was just a little sore. She got it caught in the like right there in the metal. She was hanging from the end of that. Poor girl. But it couldn't have been for more than a couple hours. Anyways, it's all good that she's a healthy, cute kids. The boys busted onto the roof, so I'm gonna supervise them as they eat some of these boxwood elders that grow out onto the battlement, I think it's called. I don't know exactly. The area behind the crenellation. That might be what it's called. One day it might be called something different, but right now the boys are maintaining the battlements. And I have got to maintain this solar panel here, which is getting infringed upon by a vine, or two, in two spots. So that's the Citadel from season 10. And then this is the west wall from season 11, as well as the insulation projects here. And you can see the Molly Stark Tower rising above. In the corner. So here's this chimney. I've got to get it up onto the roof. Not quite sure how, but then we'll see how long it drapes down into there. So it's significantly longer than I expected. I don't see how it doesn't reach all the way down to the wood stove on the first floor without me having to cut it. This is how I kind of finished this chimney hole pipe. So I didn't get a finish coat all the way down to the base of it, but I did the top, like the edge and the top 6 inches. There's a little bit of exposed lath here, which will corrode, but it's all good. Hopefully this fits, and we'll see what it looks like. It may not look like much, but that's over 10 feet there, still above. And let's go through the tunnel, see what it looks like over here. So I just gotta thread it into that hole. Oh, by the way, yeah, so over here I cut off about a foot of the length of it to make it easier to get down in there, and got the first coat on that. And power's been a little bit low. Anyways, so I'm aiming to do a batch of mortar today, probably just one batch, but I'll try to get really good coverage on this window. And but yeah, staying focused on the task at hand. Let's see this. Alright, so the chimney is in the hole. I feel like I just used this interdimensional tunnel to get into the third eye of the dragon so that it can get fired up. And here it is coming through. I'll have to just straighten it out a bit. You can see up top there's at least an inch, probably closer to 1.5 inches clearance on all sides. Whereas here, it's probably closer to 3 inches on all sides. Now we'll see how long it is on the first level. So this is coming all the way down there. So it's longer than, so it's hitting the dirt here. So it can almost certainly go down. I'll try to install the wood stove, probably without having to trim anything. I'll probably end up straightening this out. I'll dig the dirt out, and then I'll figure out the level of the dirt and install the wood stove to just fit this chimney perfectly. So the chimney is the determining factor of the wood stove placement. But yeah, so that's perfect. I won't need any other attachments if I do it correctly. But there's a lot of work to be done in all of this dirt in here. So before, when I said I'd put 2 buckets on the foundation, one of them ended up over here. So I still haven't put lath on that to make a form, but I'm going to do that probably next week. And then over here, I just added more. I integrated a bunch of the loose kind of stone and gravel and drips of cement and stuff with the rest of the bucket, and got it really well into there. So basically the idea is that as the wall generally has a downward force, that if it's connected with this, then it'll push that force down on like the whole tire wall there. And then once there's rebar connecting that to there, then that downward force will connect all of the force onto all of the tires. I got the piece of remesh up there that I had cut off of the end of that tunnel section, and I tied it up there to reinforce the transition from where I'm hanging that lath to the wall above, because there was like a break point in the lath, and there's no kind of like bridge going over that with metal. So that'll give it some good tensile strength from like there to there, that whole section of bonding above the window, where over here in the corner it'll be good anyways. So that'll connect and grip everything together once I rock it. So I think now I am all ready for a batch of mortar. So I'll get more above and below there, all up there, and probably some more on the outside. We'll see how it goes. So by the end of the day, Thursday, we got our big exposed chimney here going all the way through. We got our Archimedean counterbalance thing, majogger, going on over here. There's I got a above and below coat on this fin shaped table. You can kind of see. It's probably needs a finish coat because it's a little rough, but it's gonna make that really solid. And then just getting more coverage on this. Got most of that remesh mortared in for like the header over that window bay. And maybe with one more batch I can get some degree of coverage on all of it. There's just a little bit there, and as I put these ones in, this reinforcing kind of section right here has gotten wider by several inches, and then I did a good bit of reinforcing up on the top there, so everything much stronger. Oh yeah, I got some more on that kind of rain thing on that window there. The only reason I'm leaving the top of it open is because I was thinking it might make sense to put like a fan up there or something like that. But that'll do it for Thursday. So thanks for tuning in. We'll check in with the animals and tune out. So on the outside I got coverage on the left of the window, the rest of the ear where that, I'll go up there and I'll show you. And then around the corner, first coating on some. So the ear is full coverage. That part where the hammer was the lowest part. And I actually want the water to run off the very tip, the back of the ear. And so I had to fill that lower part. And so when I did, I added some more lath, which is what the hammer is holding down, so that with the width of mortar, there's tensile in the top kind of layer, which will help that to be able to support the weight of someone walking out there. Probably wouldn't be good to have 2 people walk out there, but this will be good to be able to kind of access around the outside. And then I got good coverage all around the outside of that. So productive batch. That's what the top of the chimney looks like, and that's it for the projects. And then finally, here's how that scoop turned out above the window, all finished now. Hey y'all, how's it going? You hungry? They used to have a feeder thing, and then the goats broke it. So now the goats don't get as much grain because it all goes in the ground. Let's go check on those boys. See how they're doing. Hey boys. I gave them so much treats today, Boxwood Elders. Oh, and Sammy got caught in there with the boys. Sammy with 2 goats. She wants to get out. She's like, let me out. Hey boys. Come on out, Sammy. Let's race to see who gets up to the courtyard fastest. Who's gonna win, me, the goats, or Sammy? I don't know. I'm gonna try to give Sammy a head start. Oh no, the boys are busting through. Make it move, Sammy, it's your time. It's your time to shine right now. They're going so fast, you gotta run up past them. Go on, you can do it. Go, Sammy, go. Go, Sammy, go. You gotta get up past those boys, Sammy. Come on, you can do it. Be brave, be brave. They're not as scary as they look. Look, they're eating leaves. Get there, Sammy. I got bread on the stove, frying, preparing my dinner feast, egg meal. Gotta get these guys all situated before I eat my meal. But it's on the stove, so we gotta go, boys. Come on. Show them to the team. There they go. Hey, what are you troublemakers doing up there? You're not supposed to be on the roof. Naughty boys. Come on, get down from there. Come on, get down. Down from the roof, down from the roof. Naughty boys, down from the roof. Come on, this way, this way. You need some crack, boys. Boys need some crack. How's it going there, Wasabi? I need a little more water. I better go get you some more water. The viewers are leaving. You want to say bye to everyone? No, don't come this way. No, no. She's not listening. Gotta stay there. Alright, bye. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in.